When I finished watching this series, I realized it wasn't about solving cybercrime. Every major character had their own journey, their own struggles, and their own lesson to teach.
नहीं तो बोल ऑपोजिशन के क्रिटिसिज्म से डेमोक्रेसी चलती है तू बोल
Some were fighting guilt, some were driven by revenge, others were simply looking for a second chance. Today, I want to share the characters that stood out to me and the life lessons I found in their stories. Let's start with Veer Hirani, aka Pritam Parker, our newest advocate. Just kidding. He's actually cybersecurity expert who is working as a vacuum cleaner salesman.
सर ये लड़का वैक्यूम क्लीनर बेचता है.
Now, you were probably wondering why would a cybersecurity expert end up selling vacuum cleaners? Well, it's a long story. Back in university, Pritam had a habit of arriving late to class. One day, his professor publicly scolded him. Sounds familiar, right? But unlike most students, Pritam's ego couldn't handle the humiliation. Instead of moving on, he decided to get revenge.
You are the reason God created the middle finger.
That night, after drinking until 3 a.m., he used his hacking skills to expose his professor's affair. The exposure destroyed the professor's reputation, and unable to cope with the shame, the professor took his own life. Pritam never intended things to go that far. The incident left him deeply traumatized. He abandoned his old identity and started a completely new life where nobody knew who he really was. But Pritam couldn't keep running forever, right? His life needed a turning point, and that turning point came in the form of Pedro, a crime branch cop. Pedro is the complete opposite of Pritam. He loves working in the field, but after trying to pull a smart move on a minister, he gets transferred to the cybercrime division as punishment.
पनिशमेंट पोस्टिंग है नारक में,
बोलना किधर
साइबर सेल में.
The funny part, Pedro barely knows how to use a computer. You can guess his level of cybersecurity when you find out that his password is literally 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it is.
क्या है सर आपका पासवर्ड?
1 2 3 4 5
So what happens when a cybersecurity genius is forced to work with a cop who barely understood computers? That's where the fun begins. Although Pritam and Pedro seem completely different, they are actually more alike than they realize. Pritam carries the guilt of destroying his professor's life. Pedro carries the guilt of not being able to save his child from the Blue Whale challenge. Both men are trapped by their past. Pedro helps Pritam realize that he was just a young man who made a terrible mistake, not someone who deserves to punish himself forever.
माफ कर दे रे अपने तू बच्चा था वो टाइम पे
At the same time, Pritam uses his skill to help Pedro solve important cases, earn another chance in the crime branch, and even rebuild his relationship with his wife. In the end, they don't just solve crimes, they help each other to heal. There is one more important character, Martin, the son of Pritam's professor. Like Pritam, Martin is also a cybersecurity expert. But unlike Pritam, he chooses to use his skills for crime. And honestly, it's difficult to judge him without knowing his story. He loses his father, his mother falls into a coma, his dream of going to the USA falls apart after his visa is rejected. One tragedy after another pushes him toward revenge. He tried but failed to kill Pritam, but instead of sending Martin to jail, Pritam gives him a chance cause Pritam thinks it was Martin's situation what made him criminal, and he was also responsible for this. Sometimes people don't just need a punishment, they need someone who believes they can change. Another important character is the sports minister. Throughout the series, he constantly doubts Pedro, refused to trust Pritam. He was the guy who sent Pedro to crime branch. No matter how much progress they make, he always expects them to fail. Although Pedro was the guy for whom he found out his son. Watching him reminded me of one of my school teacher. No matter how hard I tried, it always felt like he had already decided I wasn't capable of doing better. We have all met someone who judges us before giving us a chance to prove ourselves. Now that we have talked about the minister, we also have to talk about his wife and her ex-boyfriend. Her ex is a match fixer, husband is a sports minister, and ex is match fixer. What a combination, right? The ex blackmails her, demanding 5 crore. If she refuses, he threatens to leak the private photos from Goa trip. She was terrified, not because the photos define her, but because she knows how quickly people judge without knowing the full story. This part of the series reminded me of something. A relationship doesn't truly end when two people break up. The real test of someone's character is how they treat you after it's over. Respect shouldn't disappear just because the relationship did. Now let's talk about the real villain of the story, Constable Dattare. Pedro trusted him with the most important assignment of the investigation. Ironically, that single task ended up solving the entire case. But instead of giving credit where it's due, Dattare took all the glory for himself. Everyone believed he was the hero. Watching him reminded me one of my school friends. He used to steal my jokes, make everyone laugh, impress the girls, and somehow I never got the credit. Yeah, we have all met someone like that. So be careful, people who are always ready to take the spotlight but never willing to acknowledge the people behind the success. And finally, my favorite character in the entire series. He may not have the most scene time, but definitely he left biggest impression on me. He taught me one simple lesson: never be intimidated by the powerful people, even if you are standing right in front of politicians. What I loved most about this series wasn't the cybercrime investigation, it was the people. Every major character represented a different emotion. That's why this character stayed with me long after I finished the series. If you enjoyed this video and want more characters breakdown like this, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.